Hey guys, my name is Raitis. I am Chief Marketing Officer at Corebook, and I'm gonna be the one who's gonna talk about why your startup needs a brand identity. I'm calling you guys from Helsinki, so I just came up from one of the most inspirational events in the Nordics. So I'm doing just as a real startupper. I'm doing everything very actively from all over the world. So happy to join this amazing discussion and chat about exactly why your startup needs a brand identity, right? So just so you have a little bit more of a background of who I am and what is Corebook. So I am Chief Marketing Officer at Corebook, and I have more than a 6-year experience in marketing, business development, and branding in general, right? So, and Corebook is a platform where world-class brands and creative agencies come to create, update, share, and manage their digital brand guidelines. So we are the platform where they go and create those guidelines for their brands, right? So, and today what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit more on why exactly your startup needs a brand identity from day zero, right? So let me get to this one. So when we just start out as a startups, we are unknown to the world, right? So we are known by nobody. We are trying our best to make our voice heard, right? So we want to make sure that our tone of voice from all the channels we are using are the same, right? So, and when we are that unknown to the world, right? So it's very critical to establish your position in the market, right? So you have to have your brand identities from day one, because when you just start out and you're unknown and you want to start to build the recognition for your startup and start to build the brand around your startup, right? So because when we are just startups, we don't have a brand, right? So we have to create that. It's very long journey ahead of us, right? So going from nobody knows us to, oh, this brand, I have heard about it, I know what values it represents. And that's the way, that's very, very, very hard journey we have to take it. And it's very long journey, right? So we have to give our brand a voice. We have to give it a distinguished voice. So for anyone hearing your social media posts or newsletters or any other social media communication, right? So we have to have our brand voice. Are we joyful? Are we sarcastic, right? So do we look at things in one way or another? Do we take a stance on some kind of issues, right? So we have to give a voice to our brand, because all of us as a persons, right? We have our voice, we have our opinions, and brand is just that. It's a living and breathing thing, and it should have a voice with opinions that resembles what you do, right? So, and you have to start to build that brand from day zero. Our CEO, Maxims, today told me very, very good analogy on how brand works, right? So it's something like a tree, and you have to put in the seed at the very first day, because then it can grow, it can flourish, right? And at the beginning, it's a small tree. You have to take care of it. You have to give it time. You have to give resources to it, right? And when it grows, it starts to give you benefits. It starts to give you shade. It starts to give you fruits, right? So, and that is the best analogy I have heard ever about how important it is to start to build the brand from the day zero. here at the Corebook, we also did the same thing. At the very, very beginning, what we did was establish clear brand identity for Corebook so we can distinguish ourselves from our competition or in the market in general, right? So what we have to do is take time. Building a brand takes huge amounts of time, and that is the most critical thing you have to remember, right? Because if you see that plant in the very first day, when you start to build your startup, you establish all of the necessary things for a brand, right? So in the 6 to 12 months, you will have way more than you have of brand recognition and brand popularity, let's call it like that, right? So as if, for example, if you have started your startup and you're thinking, okay, so the product is very, very important. I agree on that. Sales, marketing, and everything else also very, very, very important for your startup development, right? So, but if we take our time with establishing our brand identity, it will take even more time for us to get this market recognition, right? So for our audience and our clients to see our social media posts, for example, and say, okay, this is the brand, this is the platform I'm using, right? You have to do that. And then, of course, brand is not about logo and it's not about the colors. I think that's the most popular misconception ever about what is the branding, right? So logo in itself and colors in itself, although they have some kind of emotional and psychological benefits, right? So for example, if we think about red, we think of active, we think of energy, right? Although it has a little bit of a role, brand is not about logo and it's not about colors. What gives our logos and colors the meaning is the story behind that logo and that colors and our story behind our business, our startup, right? So what kind of a backstory, what kind of narrative we're bringing out in the world, and what kind of a values we are attaching ourselves to, right? So for example, if we think about Nike, in itself, it's just a swoosh, right? But they have worked very hard and they have worked very long time to build that little swoosh, that $30 logo, into one of the most world's valuable brands there are. So it takes time. It's not about logo and colors, and we have to make sure that we establish our values and we communicate those values to our audience. We have our guidelines, how we talk to our clients in an email, how we talk to our clients on social media, or any other channel we might use, right? So that is very, very, very important. And please remember that it's not about logo and it's not about colors. It's the values we attach to that logo and those colors that are truly valuable and which transcends more than just how cool and how much we spent on that logo creation, right? So brand versus marketing versus sales, right? So all three things are very, very, very important, and it's inclusive, not exclusive combo, right? So we can't have branding and we can't have marketing and then we can't have sales doing three separate things and expect a good return on our own resource investment. It's very, very inclusive and it doesn't exclude anything, right? So you have to have branding and you have to have marketing and then you have to have sales talking to each other day to day. And in that way, what we can do is we can create a truly inspirational brand. So I think these two questions is one of the most critical questions you can ask when you're thinking about how do I create my brand identity. So you ask yourselves these two questions: who you are and who do you serve, right? And the question on who you are, so that comes down to something that I mentioned like a couple minutes ago, right? So you have to establish who are you as a brand, right? So having this almost like a personality to the brand is very critical on answering on this question. So if we are having trouble on defining on who we actually are, right? So and if we are defining ourselves something like, so we are a network marketing company that does A, B, C, or D thing, right? That's not who you are, right? So in this instance, I would say one of the best examples there are is Apple, right? So they have established their rebels, right? So they have established their creatives, right? And this is the way you should think about it, right? So you have to think about it as in who you as a brand are, and try to attach almost like person-like values to that brand. And then again, who do you serve, right? So you have to think of your ideal customer. You have to think about your target audience. Who do you serve? Who is the guy who's going to see, girl or guy, who's going to see your position in the market and your branding and your marketing and be like, okay, I have to get this, right? Who do you serve? Is it creatives? Are those IT specialists, right? You have to think about these things. And then why they should even care about you. And that is the question, very hard one for most of the startups, right? So we have to answer on a question, why our target audience should even care about us, that we are there, what kind of values we represent, and why. Just answering on the question, why is that, right? And then you have to tell your story and be real about that. So you can't have some kind of placebo truth placed on your website or your social media, and maybe try to establish yourselves as something that you're not, right? So if we are a startup, let's be real and establish ourselves in the market as a startup. We can't say that we are, let's say, if we are just one man creative agency, and we're saying that, okay, so we're full-fledged creative agency that we can take number of projects with the number of hours placed for that, right? We can't do that because people will know the truth sooner or later, right? So we have to make sure that our story is told in real facts, and it has to have true value and true meaning behind those words added to that. So your brand is almost like totally different personality, right? So that is an alter ego that you create, then you nurture it, you let it grow, you keep it safe, you make sure that it gets plenty of attention, right, and resources, and then it grows in this amazing person. And then your brand is almost like their adult life, right? So then when you can ask for favors from it because you have taken so much care of it. How do we get people in front of our message? And this is that question for marketing, right? So here is everything about questions which we ask to ourselves. So if branding was about things we ask ourselves, like who we are, how we position ourselves, how we talk to people, then how do we get people in front of our message is marketing question, which more or less is always answered with tools, with channels we use, right? So we have to figure out where is our audience, where is that ideal customer for us? Is it social media? Is it articles, right? So what is those places where our ideal customer is? and what does he read? Where does he get his inspiration, right? So where does he spend his time, and how do we get our message in front of them in the most efficient way, right? So one of the most easiest way is just creating YouTube ads, right? So, but then again, we have to know our customer, we have to have our brand, so we can identify as our brand, and then after that, our target customer can do the same, right? So this is the place where we say, hey, this is us, this is our values, this is our personality, and this is who we are, right? So in a branding, we go ahead and we tell our story. In a marketing, we push that story in front of them and ask them, do you like that? Do you resonate with this, right? And then what kind of actions do we want them to take? And this is the question from the sales perspective, right? And is it to book a call? Is it to have a demo call? Is it to visit the website and check out what's what, right? So all of these three questions are very good questions that in line and sequentially, when answered, brings you to the clear vision on your goals for branding, your goals and target channels for marketing, right? And what is the end goal we want to get from our clients, right? So that's that. And then everything is cycle of support. So you can't have branding without marketing. It's like just being introvert, right? So for example, if you're doing just branding, you are introvert who is very in line with who he is, but nobody knows who he is, right? So we have to have marketing. We have to have that extrovert kind of functionality where we shout out to the world, to the right people, hey, this is us. And this is my friend, introvert guy, right? So, and he has such cool values and he's such a cool guy, right? And that extrovert guy helps that introvert to get that chat going, right? And then we have our third guy who comes in and play, who is not afraid to ask, hey, do you want to book a demo or do you want to purchase a license, right? So any action that is preferable from us, that is that third guy. That's that. And everything works together in a group, and you can't have just one or two without the third one, right? So you have to work on all of these three things at the same time. So as a last words, what I would love to tell you guys is, when we just start as a startup, it's very scary because we have so much things we should take a look at, right? So, and we are so focused on building the best product or building the best service there is in our niche or anywhere where we are active, right? So start to think about how you could look like in a year and what you should do now to make it happen, right? So think of it in that way and make sure that all of these three things have time and have been allocated some resources for that. So don't be afraid to delegate and start to work on all of these things. And when we are just startup, get that branding thing going from day zero. You will thank yourself in a year or two, then you can say, okay, so our clients know us very well and they can recall us. So that is it. That is thank you slide. And yeah, so let me stop my sharing and let's get to some Q&A, because that is the best part. So guys, let's get into the chat, and this would be Q&A. What are the must-haves for startups when it comes to brand identity, in your opinion? Must-haves. I would say brand identity is quite a complex system in itself, right? So there is quite a lot of things that we should take care. But if you're not thinking about the obvious things, right? So the logos and colors, think about your tone of voice. I think that is one of the most crucial things that we should take care of, and establishing our brand personality and having clear vision on where do you see that brand in a year or two, right? So those would be the very crucial three things I would say are must-haves for startups. And I would start with the tone of voice, to be honest. Yeah. So that was a good question, Marlies. I hope I didn't butcher your name. So any more questions? So guys, also would love to connect with you guys on LinkedIn. So since I am now on my transit from one country to another, would love to connect with you guys to chat maybe later. So make sure to do that. I think you can find my LinkedIn in my profile. So feel free to do that. Marlies, maybe you have another one since everybody else is so quiet and shy. So I guess then that's going to be it from me if there is no additional questions. And yeah, don't be afraid to chat with me on LinkedIn and invite me on that. Let's connect on that. And thank you for being with me here. Thank you for listening on my chat on why you need brand identity from day one as your startup. And have a great event. And yeah, cheers and bye-bye.